WBZ is your home for the New England Patriots, and the Patriots play their second preseason game on Saturday against the Vikings in Minnesota. And joining us now to talk about all things Pats ahead of the game is CBS Sports NFL staff writer Tyler Sullivan. Tyler, great to be back with you. It's summertime, but it's also football season. How are you doing?
Good. Like you said, we're back. We're finally back. It does feel like, yeah, sure, it's going to be hot out the last few days, but you never know. That football is right around the corner here. Obviously, we're getting preseason football, but real football is crazy as it sounds, less than a month away.
Yeah, very close. And, of course, the Pats are kicking off the season against the Raiders. Let's talk about first, Tyler, though, some of these joint practices that the Pats have had with the Vikings. So by all accounts, the Pats have had a couple of rough joint practices offensively recently, and specifically against that Vikings pass rush. So let's start here. What has your takeaway been on where the Patriots offense has been this week?
Yeah, it is kind of funny, right? We're coming off the high of the whole team scoring 48 points in a preseason game. Everything looks good. The vibes are great. And then it kind of feels like things have really died down, especially, like you said, against the Minnesota Vikings. And we should put some context to this, right? Where the Minnesota Vikings were #1 in the NFL in blitz rate last season. Brian Flores, who we all know here up in Foxborough, is a great defensive mind. And they were one of the best pass rushes in the NFL last season. So this was going to be a massive test, specifically for the likes of Will Campbell, the #4 overall pick. Right now, it doesn't feel like he's been passing that test. Jonathan Grenard's been getting the better of him in these joint sessions. So this is one of the concerns. This is a revamped offensive line. The Patriots have really kind of spent exhaustively this offseason to help fix the issues that plagued them a year ago. Morgan Moses on the right side, Garrett Bradbury at center. You obviously Will Campbell at left tackle. They're figuring out what they're going to do at left guard. With all those changes does bring the possibility of some inconsistencies there. And so for me, it is concerning to see Will Campbell struggle against the elite pass rushers in this setting, because we get to week 1, it's not going to ease up. In fact, it's going to get more difficult with a guy like Max Crosby coming to town. He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. You go to week 3, it's TJ Watt in the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they're going to be tested early. So this is a pivotal period for them to get into a rhythm. So you're seeing these struggles now. It's a little bit concerning, but overall for the offense, a little bit up and down. And I think that's probably to be expected. This is kind of one of the trials and tribulations of revamping a coaching staff from year 1 to year 2 with your young quarterback. It's an entirely new system. He can't really carry anything over from year 1 into year 2. So Josh McDaniels' offense already being a complex offense to learn. Now Drake May is trying to learn it on the fly with the rest of everybody else. So it's going to be kind of choppy here. We'll see how it translates in the regular season.
And it's been a choppy week for this guy in particular, Stefon Diggs. And on one hand, Tyler, we have seen videos of him looking like his former self in these joint practices, looking like a #1 receiver. But on the other hand, he wasn't a factor on offense yesterday, and he gave an answer of, "We'll see," when asked if he's playing week 1. So what have you made of the Stefon Diggs experience thus far here in New England?
Yeah, at some points it's been a slow burn. I remember watching them during the mini camps and kind of the off-season workouts, and he's off to the side. He looks good, and then he's really nowhere to be found. And as we go into training camp here, it looked for a minute, as you referenced, looked like we were getting the Stefon Diggs of old, and now things have kind of subsided here. And I kind of think that that's what we should be expecting here. I think that we're kind of, whether it's the fan base or the organization, kind of getting a little too far out in front of us. Yes, you see the name Stefon Diggs in a New England Patriots uniform, and you think, oh my goodness, we saw him in Buffalo, with him and Josh Allen being prolific as a quarterback wide receiver combo. But at the same time, this is not that same player. This is a player that is going to be 32 years old at some point this season, coming off an ACL tear that he suffered not during the summer. He suffered this in late October 27th, in week 8 of last year. That's a lot to come back from, on top of building a rapport with your new quarterback, learning a new offense with Josh McDaniels, as we referenced. So there's kind of a lot here with him. On top of the injuries, on top of everything like that, it's, can he learn this system? Can he build some chemistry with Drake May? So I don't think that we should expect Stefon Diggs that we've seen in Minnesota, in Buffalo. I think it should temper expectations a little bit with this player because, again, the injury, the age, the system that he's coming into, there's a lot of uphill climb here for somebody like him.
I want to get to another one of the wide receivers in a little bit, but I do want to talk about Mike Vrabel because now we've had a chance to see one preseason game with him as the head coach of this Patriots team. We've had a chance to watch all these practices. Tyler, how have you seen him make the team in his mold the most so far?
I'll give you two things. First one is they take no bleep because you look at these past couple of joint practices, they're getting in scraps, and it's not just the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel's in the thick of this, separating players. We saw even before the preseason game him getting cut up in the cheeks. So clearly we saw that from Mike Vrabel as a player. You're seeing the team take over that personality on the practice field, and probably we'll see that during the regular season as well. But the other one, and to me this is the most important one, they're a smart football team. The joint practices that we've seen, the training camp sessions that we've seen, they really haven't been derailed by pre-snap penalties or anything like that. I remember last year under Gerard Mayo, there were some instances where the offense couldn't even really function because they couldn't get lined up at the line of scrimmage and really just get situationally in check. You go to that preseason game against the Washington Commanders, 2 penalties in the entire game for the New England Patriots. And so you look at Mike Vrabel, that was his calling card with the Tennessee Titans, a really smart in-game coach. The Tennessee Titans were a real disciplined football team. So those are the 2 early things that I've seen from them. And to me, it's the penalties. If you can leave those penalties and those pre-snap penalties at a minimum, that's only going to help you going into your first year as head coach.
And the interesting part about him taking over here, Tyler, is that he's taken over a roster that has had 2 separate regimes prior to him, with 2 previous head coaches having coached some of the players on the roster. And I want to bring up one guy that dates back to the Bill Belichick era, which obviously isn't that long ago, but was one of the top picks in one of the drafts for Bill Belichick, and Kyle Duggar. And there has been some talk with him, Tyler, about possibly not making that week 1 roster. Just looking at the roster crunch right now, how likely is it that he could not be on that roster week 1?
Yeah, I think he's at a real risk of not making the 53 because the arrow's already starting to point down for him. He's no longer with the starting unit. He's kind of been demoted into a secondary role. There's even talk about him maybe moving from safety to linebacker. And anytime you start to kind of mix and match after a demotion in terms of your position, that should be a warning sign that they're just trying to find a place for you on the roster. And as you referenced, this is not somebody that Mike Vrabel is beholden to. This is a prior regime, and it's not even the most recent prior regime. Of course, he signed his extension more recently, but the New England Patriots, this is where they might have some flexibility here. I think that we look at cap space in the NFL in terms of additions a lot of the time, and rightfully so. When you see the Patriots have the most cap space in the NFL like they do currently, you think, okay, this could be an opportunity for them to maybe bring in somebody that was squeezed out of their 53-man roster somewhere else in the NFL. Conversely, you can also look at it and say, listen, we might be eating some dead money here with Kyle Duggar. If we move on from him this season, it would be around $8 million. But they have that financial flexibility with the amount of cap space that they have to be able to move off of a player that they don't feel like is in their plans and in their building for their rebuild under Mike Vrabel going forward. So to me, it's turning into a perfect storm or an unperfect storm for Kyle Duggar. It doesn't feel like he's going to have a spot once we get to that 53.
Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. Final thing before we let you go, Tyler. This is a guy I assume a lot of Patriots fans are hoping to see on the field a lot here for this second preseason game, and that's Chism, the undrafted wide receiver out of Eastern Washington. Had a great first preseason game, ended up having a touchdown catch in that one. What is the actual likelihood, though, that he's going to make the 53-man roster coming out of week 1?
Yeah, 560 and 100 in that preseason opener. That was really, really great for Chism. But the other thing here that I think we need to point out from that preseason opener, He did work on special teams. He returned a punt in that game, which you cannot overlook when we're trying to figure out those final couple of spots on the 53-man roster, because if you can do more, that's only going to endear yourself to the coaching staff. And so I think that if he is showing you an ability to be a backup punt returner and a depth piece currently, a developmental depth piece at the wide receiver position, there's a lot to like there in terms of getting one of those final wide receiver spots. Now, the question will be for the Patriots, how many wide receivers are they going to have? There have been some projections where they keep 7 wide receivers, which is a huge number. But if they do that, that really opens the door for a guy like Chism to make the roster. Even if they have 6 wide receivers, I think that he could make a case to be one of those wide receivers. And it maybe makes a guy like Kendrick Bourne a little bit more expendable, hasn't really been involved too much. So maybe he's somebody that's on the outside looking in. You want to invest a little bit more in Chism. So I think that there's a legitimate chance he makes this team. And if he continues to ball out, I mean, this isn't just a summer thing for Chism. He was balling out during OTAs. He was balling out during minicamp as well. So this has kind of been a steady climb for Chism, and we're really starting to see him break out right now. A couple of highlight catches, obviously the good performance in the preseason game. If he continues that here against the Minnesota Vikings, he might stamp his case to say, hey, listen, I'm not a practice squad guy that you try to sneak onto the practice unit. I'm someone that is capable of making the 53-man roster. One
of the many storylines that we are going to continue to follow here in the preseason. But Tyler, it's so great to be back with you. Great to chat. We look forward to continuing to have you on here throughout the season again. All right, and WBZ is where you can watch Saturday's game against the Vikings. Coverage starts with game day at 12:30, and then kickoff is at 1. And, of course, we'll have the 5th quarter post-game show on WBZ right after the game.